Hey folks, how are ya? This may be a world record for this channel in that I'm doing a video just days after I did the last video. I never do that. Um, some disclaimers. This one's going to be, I've been thinking about this for a long time and I'm still having some struggles getting my thoughts together on it. Now, one of the things you might also know, if you've seen anything that I do here, I am an unscripted, I believe in candor and I'm leaning hard into candor. And with candor comes mistakes, but at least it doesn't come across as phony and somehow unbelievably polished, so that all you're getting is a diatribe in euphemistic language, trying to avoid that. But no script means a degree of candor, and that does mean mistakes. But I'm okay with that. I'm going the Andy Edwards school. I've mentioned that a few times as a musical person. I like what Andy does over there. He makes me laugh, and I love the fact that he will say what's on his mind. Today, and I've been thinking about this for a while, and there's a political element. No, it's very political, and I've been careful about politics because there's a little bit of Schopenhauer in me. That, man, the world's got to fix its problems. I'm wearing yes, this t-shirt says Kenobi on it. It's Kenobi's High Ground Coffee, I believe. That's right. It's the morning's only hope. Yep, I wore that today. It sort of makes sense because I think of Kenobi in the original sense, in the original film version, as being a character that has some Schopenhauer in him. He's out. He's done. He's kind of given up because the moment had to be right, and then the moment was right. Okay. So people sit there would say, are you an optimist? Are you a glass half full person, a glass half empty person? I would lean towards glass half empty because although I'm a liberal, I'm very pragmatic. And pragmatic doesn't necessarily have to mean conservative. It just means I like to make sure I've got my facts. And I'm not necessarily in a rush to get to those facts. Time can be your friend sometimes in drilling down and taking some time and getting there. So, but that analogy, that the glass half full, glass half empty, our current times, I don't think we've got a glass. I think the glass got broken. We don't have a glass, so we have nothing even to fill. I mean, I would really like to get back to a point where we had a glass. Having a glass would be great. Then maybe we could fill it, and then we could decide whether we were, half empty or half full. But first we have to reconstruct a glass, have a glass, then get the water to fill it in, and then fill it in enough so that we could start to have those debates. So things are bad. And that's what sort of leads me to this moment. Because things are I think my big point is going to be here today is about what's right in the moment. Where are you in the historic continuum? Where are you in a process? In a political processes that we see repeat and repeat and repeat. And read your history because it's fascinating. You see, okay, here we go. Learn about palace intrigues, whether that's, Tudor England or, 15th and 16th century France. I mean, you read about the Medici, get into the Borgias, really deal with some good palace intrigues. There's so many of them. Asian history has tremendous palace intrigue stories. There's no shortage. A lot of that, and you understand how the cycle works to some degree because humans really haven't changed all that much. So I want that. That sort of needs to be there to even get into what we're going to get into tonight. And It's a tough one. I am in a congressional district. It is the congressional district that includes part of Westchester County in New York, Putnam County, some of Orange County. It's been redistricted, but that's that area. It's currently, and it's gone back and forth. It was Sean Patrick Maloney once time. Before that, it was, forget her name. She wasn't very nice, but it's gone back and forth party wise. Right now, it's Michael Lawler. I can't even don't get me started on Lawler. All right, so I'm way to the left, and so there's nothing about a guy. Mike Lawler and I would not agree on anything. Philosophically, we could not be further apart. There is virtually nothing this guy says that I've ever agreed with. We are poles apart. We are never going to. It's fine. Mike Lawler shouldn't have a gig doing virtually anything. There shouldn't be guys like Mike Lawler. All right. So, but there he is. And so, assuming we have elections next fall, which I am doubtful about. I think there'll be some pretext because we've broken through all the barriers. Why wouldn't that be next? What's going to happen? What's anyone going to do? Is anyone going to actually do anything? Right? Is there going to be, if there was some attempt to steal the elections, someone would write a sternly written letter? I mean, right? I mean, what's anyone going to do about it? Because I don't see anybody's going to be able to do anything about it. So, I'm not sure we're going to have elections. But let's say we do. Okay, I'm going to work off that premise. Let's say we do. So there are elections, and I'm seeing the person who's going to run against Lawler. And I was going to mention her name, and I'm not going to mention her name because I don't want to. You could find out who this is. Before I go down this road, I've never met this person. She strikes me as very bright. I bet you I'd like her. And yet, it's going to be really, really hard to vote for her. But why, Dave? I mean, what's the problem? I don't think the moment is right for this kind of candidate. And I don't think the moment's right for that much when it comes to Democrats. And I don't think the moment's been right for what the Democrats have turned. Look, I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. They were never really committed enough for me. They were never strong enough for me. They've been incredibly weak. And when they've had power, they've not exercised power. Biden had a chance. Merrick Garland. I mean, there was an opportunity there. They wouldn't dream of actually exercising power, wielding power. So that's kind of an enormous issue for me. As much as I am opposed to what's going on the right, the current regime, is perfectly happy to wield power. That's not my problem with them. But there's clearly stuff they want to do and they don't care. They're going to get it done. Well, that's a big part of politics, is power and using it. And always has been. There are some folks who would go further and say all history is the history of power. No, I'm not sure I agree with that framing, but it's an enormous part of it. Having power, being able to use power, being able to use it successfully. And, the Democrats haven't done that. I thought Obama was never strong enough. His one achievement was Obamacare. Biden just looked the other way. None of this was going to happen. Everything was going to go back to normal. Of course it wasn't. Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, they get steamrolled on everything. Look, as a party, they lost the Congress. They've lost the Senate. They've lost the people. They've lost the Supreme Court. I mean, where's the winning? Where's the big wins? Because they're not winning. They're not winning anywhere. They've moved more to the right. They've become the centric. They're with the technocrats. They're gonna go. They've gone that way, which was a terrible move. It didn't work out well for them. They were the guys pushing. It's old now, but they were the guys pushing political correctness. That was a thing that came out of that center left movement. That was a very Hillary Clinton thing. I wasn't crazy about Hillary Clinton. I was, but this is what they were going to do, and this is what they had. And there's a lot of older leadership there. There's not a lot of youth. There's some youth now. Some things are starting to change. But the older wing of that party would not let go. Whether that was Ruth Bader Ginsburg really blowing it and not retiring. I think Nancy Pelosi hung on too long. Dianne Feinstein. I mean, they've hung on too long. That's been part of their problem. Now that happens to the right too. Plenty of that. Okay, but there was a chance to do something right, and which I would expect of somebody doing something right. They didn't do it. So they've made some mistakes again and again and again, and it's pretty hard to support. And I'm looking for, I don't mind an AOC. She may be a little of left to me, but I don't mind an AOC. I like Mamdani. I don't have a problem with Mamdani at all. Crockett's great. I think she's great. So there are people there and there are voices there, but just way too many who just, if we're depending on the mainstream Democratic Party to save you from all this, they ain't gonna do it. They wouldn't dream of doing it. They have there's no imagination there. And if they have power, they won't use it. They'll just try very hard to have some more committee meetings. People are like, well, where are you politically? I'm kind of a New Deal Democrat. I mean that in the FDR sense. Franklin Roosevelt loved politics and was good at playing it and successful at playing it and had no problem about wielding power. And the result of him and that movement were labor unions and, a safety net and all, and a Congress that stayed Democratic for another 40 years. Most of the things that Roosevelt would have been for are the sort of things I'm for now. And there's very few people saying that. That would be frighteningly leftist. And no, it's not. They're reasonable. They're good ideas. What we should be doing. So I'm a New Deal Democrat when there aren't any, but I am one. And what I'm seeing as the Democrats, this doesn't function and doesn't work. And people say, well, you got to stay behind them because they're the only game in town. And you know what? The ship is sinking. And it's not, that thing not only, the thing is intellectually dead, the thing is philosophically dead, the thing is got no imagination, thus it's dead. That's not going anywhere. Doesn't mean the left can't do something, but that party, which is barely the left, we need actual left. So that's what I'm looking for. I see Plattner up in Maine. I actually think Plattner's okay. I grew up in Maine, so I'm not moving back. But Plattner's cool. I think Plattner's closer to, I think there's an appetite for a vigorous, um, muscular leftism, activism, a bit of anger, some fire in the belly. I think it's one of the reasons Mamdani did well. But you don't see it from the mainstream Democrats. And that again leads me to this local race where there is this very nice human running. And some of this I'm not sure is even her. I bet if I met her again, I'd think she was great. But it almost doesn't matter. Some of this is about messaging and PR, or just playing the game the way it's always been played. The thing I'm noticing so much, this person who's running has been involved in local politics her whole life and knows all of the events that you go to, and you make the local thing that happened at this organization, that organization, and you shake the hands. It's politics. It's the way politics has always been done. And she's very good at it, and that's it. I think when we see candidates like that automatically we reject them. The way it's always been done is not what people crave. And they sit there and go, well, I followed all the rules and I did the thing that everyone does. The Democratic Party comes across as someone who works in an HR department. They've said everything right, but do you believe them? Right? It's a lot of virtue signaling. Look at me, I watch PBS. Yeah, okay. It's pushing, it's a lot of finger wagging. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. Right? So it's I'm a nice, reasonable person. And I want to listen to all the views and talk to all the people. Would have worked fine in 76, 78, 77. It's not where we're at right now. We need a much more pissed off person that's going to actually get people out. I don't need someone who's ticking off boxes and saying, but I did everything right. See? I met with this group today. They're just such wonderful people. Organizations that have very little impact in most people's lives that most people have never even heard of. I understand, but that's the way it goes. And you got to do your canvassing, and I know. But to lean into it, it's one thing to say, okay, some of that stuff is necessary. It's another thing at least the perception is that someone's leaning into it. Boy, I can't wait to be completely safe, middle, normal. When she tries to say, that Lawler, blah, 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 I'm sure she's have to be coerced into doing it. It comes off empty. It comes off not sincere. It just doesn't click. I'm not knocking this person. Again, I think she's probably really bright. I think I'd like her. Sure, she's great. But we're talking about a candidacy. And is it the right time for that kind of candidate? And I'm like, no, it isn't. I don't want the librarian to be running for Congress. I don't want the HR person. I don't. I want someone more grassroots and more pissed off. Much more pissed off. Who will come out and say, I am on agenda. We got to go. I don't want my Democrats to say, I'm so looking forward to working with my friends across the aisle. They're not your friends. They don't want you to around. They don't want you to exist. It might be a good idea to fight back a little and get them out of power and keep them out of power and work on the culture so the kind of values they exhibit have no place in the culture at large. You've got to be fighting those fights. Well, my policy positions are great. I know you have lovely legislation you want to get passed through. There are bigger issues right now. There are much bigger issues right now. It's going to take a lot more than I'm a good policy person. That would have been great in a day when everything was normal and there was sanity and we were talking about pushing legislation. Great. That's not the world we're in right now. We need something vastly angrier. So, what do you do in a situation like this? Am I going to be able to vote for this person, assuming we're even going to deal with elections? I don't know. And a lot of the Democrats will get very angry at anybody who says this and they go, you can't. You've got to support us. Now, maybe if we don't support any of this, good. That dying thing will die faster. Good. So we can move that aside, and there can be a new version of a leftist party that is angry and activist and wants to really go at them. Maybe we need to do that. Because that's where it wants to go. People said, well, no, we've got to become more civilized. That'd be great if we were 10 years ago, that was a good message. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, fine. We're way into something else now. And if you can't recognize that that moment has changed, I can't believe that they can't. If you're that dim, if you're that out of it, you deserve a vote. There's a good third of the country usually that doesn't vote. And I've never understood why anyone didn't pay attention to that. I mean, that disaffected. Wow. That's a place where something new could happen. If someone was able to speak and energize a good hunk of that part of the country, maybe a good hunk of independence, and a lot of Democrats are like, what the hell is the party doing? You got something. Needs the right voice and the right person. I'm not sure we found it yet. And I've been thinking for a while that there will be some new voice in leftism, but it's not going to be anybody we're necessarily aware of yet. Mamdani's the beginning of something like that. It was the first time. No one was talking about him 2 years ago. Right. It's going to be somebody who comes out of left field, who's going to ignite this, because it's there. But this version of the Democrats, well, then you're part of the problem. I reject that, and I reject the idea that it is a moral or ethical argument, that you morally and ethically have to vote for Democrats. Give me a better product. Do a better job. When you're in power, will you do what you... Oh, you won't do anything? Then you're not going to get it. Done. I've been waiting for them to do the right thing for a good 40 years. When's it going to happen? It's never really happened. Little bits, little tiny bits. There's a lot of work to be done. But that crowd does not deserve my vote. So something's got to give. And people say, well, then it's just going to get worse. It might. Good. Let it get worse for 10 or 12 years. 15, 20. Good. I'll be an old guy. Even more old. Good. Let's do that. Fine. If what comes out of that mess is something that's actually liberal, great. It's better than let's piss away the next 20 years and just go halfway and do these halfway measures. That's great, and stay in the same place. Great. We could do that, or the whole thing could be crushed, and then something actually. Great. Then the quicker way, the most efficient way to get to progress is to reject this so we could build something else. I think that is an ethical choice. I think that is a moral choice. In fact, I think that's much more moral than saying, well, yes, wringing our hands and going along with things. Just to be clear, I'm not going along with any of this. All right? And it strained a lot of relationships. But, oh well, I guess people didn't know me. I'm fine with it. I'm not... just not. This is not the way I live. I'm not going to be like, well, yes, this is what everyone else is doing, so you have to screw that. No. Well, then you'll be all alone. Then great, I will be. Totally great. Fine. But, yeah, I my social needs are not such that you stop believing what you believe in. These are sort of bedrock things. You keep working on it. So, yeah, I think the local human who's running for the congressional seat's a nice person. Wrong candidate at the wrong time. It just is. Is there anyone around here that would? No, they won't be able to. Look, it's a Democratic primary. It would have to be like some independent movement, really, politically speaking. And it would have to be sort of a grassroots nationwide political movement that would be something that would either split the Democrats or supplant them on the left. That would be great. That's what I would advocate for that. That's what I'd like to see. And it means a lot of losing. Okay, that means a lot of losing for a long time. But eventually we'll get there. I'd rather do that than, just stay in lockstep with something that's clearly doesn't work. Can't work. So, yeah, this one may get me in trouble, I'm sure. I don't know. It won't get me in trouble. I mean, good Lord. But I think that's what needs to happen on the left. And, and I'm sort of waiting for someone to come along. I would do it myself. I don't think I'm cut out for politics. I can't imagine myself being cut out for politics. I don't want the gig. And it would take over your whole life, and maybe that's what's required at this point, but I don't, I have no political base. The Democrats would never accept me. Good. So yeah, it would be, I don't see that there would be a lot of point to any of that. But I think there's an appetite for it. And it amazes me that in a culture where we seem to be looking for the next thing, we can't seem to find it. I think it's there. I think the appetite is there. Just gotta, someone has to recognize it, find it. Some event, something to inflame it, light it, get it started, a little bit of momentum. That's the way these things sort of work. I'm reminded of the Lech Walesa, the Solidarity movement in Poland, if you go way back, because I watched that happen. This guy was a guy working in a shipyard, as I recall, and started, a movement for a union. I believe that's how it all started. That was a brave guy, but it came grassroots, and it came because people saw that it was a real thing. It was not a manufactured thing. So I'm hopeful, since the glass is broken and we have no glass, before we start doing half empty and half full, that there'll be that this human is out there that will start to, and that the ecosystem can even support something real. We're in very weird times. Media is incredibly manipulated. So there's a lot of things that might stymie something like this before it even happens. But that's what I'm hoping. But this kind of candidate, you know, I watch it and I just sit there and go, does she have any idea how out of touch this looks? But this is the way it's done. Don't you understand? I'm sure that would be, if I talk to this person, I know it would be, don't you understand? It's the way politics is done. And you go to them, I don't want to hear it. Yes, it's a reason to reject it. If that's the way it's always been done, that's the way it's done in politics, then it's the reason why look, the minute you get close to politics, I have on a few occasions been around it and had people involved in it. And when you get close to it, you will probably, if you're a half-decent human being, you will probably have an incredible revulsion. It will make you borderline ill when you see what people are all about. It's nasty. And so it's a good thing regular folks aren't involved in politics, I suppose. But that is the most cutthroat and nasty, nasty scene. It's bad. So, when everyone says, well, this is just the way we do things, well, then it's a reason to change the way we do things. Right now, if there's ever been a time, talk about making some fundamental changes so we get closer to something that actually resembles democracy. Really, actually, wow. This would be the time. If there's ever a time to say there's nothing to lose. It's all been lost. But we can't say that. We might get ourselves in trouble. With what? People are saying crazy things on the right every day, out of their mind crazy, and people don't even look up. If there was ever a time to go out on a limb, now's your time to go out on a limb. And our guys had to go, well, I don't know. Was there a focus group? I'm not sure. Maybe we need more speeches like this. Maybe we need the extemporaneous. Maybe we need the real. Perhaps. That's what I've got for you. I think it's nuanced. I think it's difficult. I think you could make a million criticisms of what I'm saying. Well, you can't do this thing. You can. And I'll grant you this. I thought it through, but there are pitfalls to all of this. I'm with you, but I think there's a kernel of truth to it. I think this direction that this is all going, not good. And we need that kind of Democrat. No, we need to get more centrist. No, we don't. Nope. Well, whenever they put up a progressive, it doesn't do well. In some districts, I'm sure that's true. A lot of places, I'm sure that's true. And there are a lot of people who will say, look, the whole country is really apolitical and doesn't care about party. Well, another reason, even more reason, to go for something it doesn't have to be radically leftist. What all it has to be. All right? And I think if you actually heard anything Mamdani has ever said, right? It's not that the press wants to make him this thing because it sells papers. But most of what you'll hear from him, or a lot of folks that are in that neighborhood, really are pretty straight things about, maybe we should work on problem solving. Yeah, okay. They're not. It would be better than, bombing countries. That there's, won't even be, I want to go down that route. Good luck flying this summer. That much. That'll be fun. Flying this spring for sure. Hope you're not flying anywhere. It's going to be, the prices have gone up, 100%. Yeah, it's, and what are we doing there? I gotta go, but I'll leave you with this: it seems like, let's just be geopolitical for a second, right? It seemed like the intent was, okay, we're gonna, there's been a lot of strife there. Great, we're gonna tip them over the edge. Great, we're gonna hit them. We're gonna remove that. We're gonna remove the decapitate the state, and hopefully the people take over. And whatever comes after that, hopefully will be less antagonistic to us. And obviously Israel's involved in this. And they're to them, okay, you better do that. That better be what happens. That's a hell of a gamble. And I think the odds were against it to begin with. So they go in, and the capability is there, certainly. So they wipe out tons of guys. Great. And all Iran has to do is survive. All Iran has to do, at least that regime has to do, is not leave office. Just not leave. There is no rising. Not really all that surprising. And regime stays intact. Which it's hanging on by a thread, but right now it stays intact. And as long as it stays intact and it controls the straits, they win. We could claim we got a lot of guys, but so, if you don't take out that regime, and the regime now does exactly what it's doing regarding the Straits of Hormuz and the oil traffic, you have a big problem on your hands. How do you solve that? Well, you either have a massive naval presence there to open it up, or you're going to have people there taking some part of it so that you with enormous expense to keep the straits open. So I'm not sure, maybe the straits will get open somehow, but I don't see regime change happening. So essentially you don't win. You get really nothing out of it. At best, if the straits were open before, so now the straits are going to be closed and you'll get them back. So that, what, it was a tie? What? You've degraded all sorts of their abilities, yes. You took out a lot of bad guys, yes. But I think you better be really sure you're going to win one of these things before you go and you play with the toys. And that's what this is. That's what this is, because these guys they could care less who and what they kill. I mean, these are bad folks. And they don't care about the collateral damage. I mean, these are bad folks. Iran is not something I'm defending. Well, about as evil as it gets. But good luck. Unless there is a popular uprising and they do it themselves. They nearly did. But until that happens, you're not going to do it. Thinking you're going to... It's crazy. All right, I'm done now. But yeah, that mess that is the Democrats and this poor candidate, she probably won't win. Knowing how the loonies around here, she probably won't win. But even if she does, is she going to be the force that makes things right? I doubt it. She'll go to a lot of meetings, though, and take notes. It's not going to make it, guys. We need something a lot more than that. Needs to be a lot more fire in the belly than that. So, I remain on Team Kenobi and a bit of Schopenhauer, and I'm going to go do my thing, which is writing tunes and working my music. Talk to y'all. Peace. Really, I'd like some.